Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First of all, I want to say thank you really sincerely to everyone who watched and commented on my previous upload. It was so wonderful to receive such a warm welcome back, and I really appreciate it. If you are someone who listens to my content but you are not yet subscribed, please do consider doing so. I am hoping to grow the channel over the next few months, well, on an ongoing basis, and every subscriber counts. I really appreciate those of you who have been listening to me for a long time, who have supported me for a long time, and those of you who have newly discovered me and chosen to subscribe. Thank you, everyone. And even if you don't subscribe, I hope you find the content here edifying and inspirational. Inspirational in the sense that it encourages you to teach, to share your insights and so on. I believe we grow best when we are learning from each other. And even though our experiences are unique to ourselves, they can help us. We can help each other by sharing what we know. One of the things I do want to focus on my uploads going forward is the practical application of metaphysics. I really do agree with Neville when he says that if this information has no practical application, then for us as individuals, it's really worthless. It's nice to hear it, but if we can't apply what we're hearing and see evidence that this stuff is real, we're not going to grow in confidence. And more importantly, we're not going to grow in power. And it's the power that is leading us to the discovery of who we are as our authentic selves, not in a human context, but who we are as the substantive, individualized conceptions of God, absolute causation. On my walk this morning, as I was listening to Neville, he was talking about persevering. And I was thinking, okay, well, if I were to make this digestible or easy to understand, what would I substitute for the word persevering? And I, in my contemplations, found that I couldn't really substitute a word for it. There really is no alternative other than to keep going. You know, we say in life, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And it's so true in this context when we are striving to make our desires an objective reality through consent. And so I thought instead, how have I done it when I've been able to succeed in seeing my desire through to its objective maturity? And the answer is that I was always mentally elsewhere. And that's what I want to encourage you to develop as a habit. The interesting thing about being mentally elsewhere is that we do it all the time, whether you're at work, in the company of others, or just doing some task at home that you're very familiar with. I like to craft, I like to crochet and to knit, and I can be thinking a dozen other things while I'm sitting there doing that. I find it very relaxing. I mentioned being in a meeting at work. You could have someone blabbering on over Zoom or whatever, and then you're thinking about perhaps your children or going shopping or paying a bill or redecorating a room in your house or whatever it might be. And so with metaphysics, this technique, if we do it intentionally, can be incredibly potent and in helping us to achieve our emotional objectives. When I say emotional objectives, I'm referring to the fact that we receive an impression as an emotion, as an emotional state, and that emotional state in its own way becomes an objective reality and manifests itself as the circumstances and conditions of our life, including our relationships with others, which incidentally, I digress, are the earliest indications of a change of state. So back to the theme at hand, being mentally elsewhere, intentionally mentally elsewhere. So let's say, for example, you wanted to change your physical address and live in a different kind of home. Maybe you're in a shared house or a smaller house, or you want something larger, or maybe you're just not happy with where you are and you can't quite see how you're going to get from, place A to place B. Well, the first thing you're going to do in changing that is to spend a little time to ensure that you are as clear as you can be about what it is that your desire is telling you. And remember, a desire is an awareness or a sensation that you notice that communicates to you something that you already possess, but that thing is awaiting physicalization. I don't know if that's a real word. So spend a little time allowing the sensation, this desire, to form images in your mind about the place that has been prepared for you. In this example, I'm talking about going from one physical location to another. You're already aware of the desire and what it's communicating to you. So you're going to spend some time being really clear about what it is. And remember, Neville says that down to the minutest detail, you can just spend that time in reverie, just allowing all of these images to form in your mind. And you can settle on one or two images, preferably one that summarizes what it is where it is, that you are going. So when you're clear about this, the next thing to do is to instruct yourself to overlay, if you like, everything that you do for the rest of the day with the images that your desire has created in your mind. And I'll just explain that a bit more clearly. Let's say you're standing in kitchen A and you want to be in kitchen B. So you are seeing kitchen B using your subjective senses. When you turn on a tap in kitchen A and you feel that tap, you are still seeing that the tap that's being turned on is the one that's in kitchen B. I hope that's clear. Do let me know if you need me to clarify that further. So what I'm saying is that even though you are in one physical location, you are seeing, using your subjective sight, the new location that you want to be in. And it's not difficult to do, but it might take a little practice. And don't worry if you forget throughout the course of the day to do this, or you grow tired. If you persist and come back to it, remember, if at first you don't succeed, you come back to it, you will find in time that this will become a really powerful tool for you to use however and whenever you wish. I personally found that doing this was the easiest way of sustaining the reality of my desire. And I want to note that this is really different from a single act of metaphysical prayer. This was what I would do, how I would live until my desire became so natural that there was no difference between what I was experiencing mentally and what I was experiencing physically. And hearing someone describe that might seem odd. When you experience it for yourself, you'll know exactly what it is I'm saying. So I would do this and then I would segue into the new state almost without noticing. As I say, what I'm talking about is based on my own experience. So this is my suggestion for how you can keep it real, if you like, how you can sustain your desire if you find metaphysical prayer to be a little bit oblique and something you're not quite getting to grips with. This is something that we do all the time as as human beings, normal, everyday human beings. We're doing one thing, we're thinking about another. But what we're doing in this case is doing it with intention. And I personally have found this method very effective. Now, I want to say it's not as if I sort of set out to design a way of doing these things. I found that whenever I was successful in making my desires an objective reality, and I thought about what I had been through, this was the method that I used. And, as with all these things, as you're listening to me, please be completely confident in modifying the technique to make it suit your own needs, to suit your own temperament and personality. I'm just giving this as an outline of how, or a description or an example of how I have been able to successfully manifest, for lack of a better word, it's not my favorite word, but to make my desires, to successfully consent to the objective reality of my desires. Whenever I failed to do it, it was always the same: a lack of consistency, giving too much time and attention to what I was unhappy with the things that I wanted to change, and not focusing exclusively on this technique. I would often neglect the fact that if things didn't work, it was down to me, because I am the chief operating power. I always am, even if I don't want to take responsibility. And with this technique, I will say, don't worry about what your physical environment is telling you. What's different about this is it's not requiring you to sort of sit down and close your eyes and all the rest of it. So you may see things that trigger you and remind you that actually this is your circumstance right now. But even if you are looking at something in your physical reality, that doesn't prevent you from looking at it using your objective sight. So you're looking at it physically, but it's like you're not seeing it because you're looking at something else. I hope that's clear. It's a really fun, easy technique. It's so natural to me that I am almost unaware of when I'm using it, but I always know that if I do this, I'm going to get the outcomes that I'm looking for. So going back to the technique itself, as I say, it's like overlaying your objective senses with your subjective senses. You're using them in tandem with your subjective senses, excuse me, in tandem with your objective senses. You're using them at the same time, and it's almost as though they fuse. And this for me is an example of us deferring to our divinity. And I always find that with this technique, I'm never worried about how long it will take for something to show up, because that feeling of naturalness that this technique creates in me always arrives sooner rather than later. As I say, I'm suddenly in the new circumstance condition, in the new, enjoying the new quality of relationships. Sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue tied, without even thinking about it, because I've been experiencing it for so long. It could take a few days, it could take a week, could take a couple of weeks. All I'm saying, or even longer, but all I'm saying is persevere. And as you are doing it, you will begin to reap the fruits as you are heading towards the objective maturity of your desire. Please do give this a try and let me know how you get on. I'm really excited to hear from you and anyone who applies this, finding that if you find that, this gives you the results, this was the missing link, then you can develop this technique, you can share it with others, and so on. Anyway, that's all for now. I've really enjoyed being back with you in this upload. And until we are together again, stay phenomenally you.